Hello and welcome to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville. I invite everybody to rise and join Council in Oakville. Thank you, everybody. Please be seated. In 1820, Indigenous people here began welcoming settlers from all over the British Empire. Soon, Oakville people were helping Black people escaping from the United States to settle here too. Today, our Indigenous founding partners are still here enjoying this land with us, and Indigenous people live with us as neighbors and friends. Our Indigenous white and Black settlers created a community with an attractive degree of harmony and prosperity. In 1857, Ontario recognized Oakville as a town. At Town Hall, all of these years later, we fly the flags of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation beside the flags of Oakville, Ontario, and Canada. We fly our flags together to acknowledge our origins. The livability we are creating attracts people from all over Canada and the world. We offer newcomers a warm spirit of welcome. We offer everyone our founding story so everyone knows what we are part of. We feel sorrow and distress for acts of racism and intolerance suffered across the world, including here in Canada and here at home in Oakville. We want our future to be equitable and inclusive for all. We believe the path of truth and reconciliation can unite all of us. We hope you will keep well, stay safe, and let us on Council know of any chance to be helpful to you and yours. We also hope you'll let us know anytime you can help increase Oakville's harmony, prosperity, and livability. Madam Clerk, I understand we are a full house tonight, no regrets. Councillor, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Madam Clerk, I paused for a long time. There are none showing. Council, would two of you like to move and second the adoption of the minutes unless you have corrections for any of them? Councillor Dudek and Councillor Longo, thank you. Any objection? There being none, the minutes are approved. There are minutes of the Committee of the Whole workshop from May 6th to be approved, and I would take a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Giddings and Councillor Shia, thank you. Any objection? There being none, those are adopted. We have some consent items. There's always interest in our consent items. Are there any questions or separations about the consent items? Councillor McNeice.
I believe 9.3, we have delegates.
Oh, yes. Well, then we will do that. Councillor Haslett-Deal.
Through you, Mayor Burton, can we separate out 9.2?
Yes, we can. Would the two of you like to move the balance of the consent items? Thank you. Any objection? There being none, they're adopted. 9.2, Councillor Haslett-Deal.
This is through you, Mayor Burton, to the staff. I just had a couple questions on DCs and maybe just for points of clarification. So I understand that the new bill may take away our ability to have interest, the interest allocated back into our DC reserves. Could you just direct me or the public where we can see a list of what those interest accrued dollars would have been invested in for the benefit of the town?
Through you, Mayor. Through you, Mayor Burton. Thanks for the question, Councillor. We do have interest listed. Appendix A of the report does show interest related to both the rate freeze that we collect for applications that have frozen DC rates and for interest related to installments. And we've listed that in the report too. So essentially in 2024, if we weren't able to collect interest, just give me a second here. Page 4. Oh, for installments, those that are on deferrals, about 200,000 in interest accrued in 2024. And related to the rate freeze applications, it was $2.6 million.
So in that 2.6 million, those dollars would have been used for items that are DCable. Is that correct? That would have been on our list? Can you just clarify that for me?
That's correct. Yeah, it makes up the development charge revenue. So basically, instead of developments paying the current development charge rate, they're paying their frozen rate plus that interest. And one way you can see the impact of that too is on our monthly growth revenue tool chart. We have that Bill 108 rate freeze column. That's the shortfall we have when you add up the frozen rate, the interest, when you compare it to what our current rates are.
Okay, so I'm going to ask my question in residential language. Are those dollars spent on things that have already been identified as community needs? In other words, supporting the growth, the infrastructure needed for that growth that brought us those DCs?
That's correct, yep, for all the development charge funded projects.
And so if I have some curious residents, if they wanted to understand those elements, just remind me where I would direct them to.
Sorry, the elements of interest?
What is DCable
Oh.
as of today?
Yeah, the development charges background study is the best place. That's the source for it.
Okay, thank you. A resident wanted me to ask, and so I've done that. Thanks very much, Mayor Burton.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Day, would the background study educate the resident about the mechanism at the end of every development charge bylaw where the credits and debits are counted up, and if you've overpaid, you get a credit on the new one, and if you I think it's very important for residents who want to delve into DCs to understand that it's quite an elaborate set of accounting designed to be fair to everyone.
Through you, Mayor Burton, that's a great point. And the DC study is that place.
Good.
Because it is a very complicated calculation to make sure things are fair for all parties.
Okay, super, appreciate that. Councillor Elgar.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. I appreciate the report, and I'd like to thank the CAO for every month telling us the money we're kind of short. Now, my question is, like I'm reading here that what's 18.3 million less revenue due to rate freeze. Well, as Councillor Duddick says, we were told we would be made whole with a W, but it looks like they took the W off the whole. So who's on the hook? Like, I'm not too smart. I think it's going to be the existing taxpayers are going to be subsidizing even more unless we are made whole with a W.
Through you, Mayor Burton, there are some changes on that chart that are more cash flow items than they are needing to be funded by taxes. And that rate freeze shortfall is one of them. So we're kind of falling behind because we're not collecting the current rates. But when we get to that DC study, as the mayor pointed out with the detailed calculations, we'll be able to incorporate those shortfalls into our new rates. So we're not getting it now when we need it. It could mean we need to issue debt or things like that, but eventually we will, for that item as a cash flow item, be made whole eventually.
So we will not have to think about existing taxpayers subsidizing?
For that specific item on the rate freeze, yes. For other items on that list.
I was going to
they
say,
will.
what about the other items?
And we're still waiting to see how we'll be made whole.
Okay, we'll keep our eyes peeled. I look forward to getting this resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. It's good to know we can always rely on you to shine the light on the hole in the bucket that's caused by, I think this hole in the bucket got punched through first back in the Development Charges Amendment Act of, I think it was in 1997? And they decreed at the legislature that there was a benefit to the existing for growth, and you were going to darn well pay for some of it. So thank you, Councillor Elgar. Councillor Elgar and Councillor Hazeltine, would you like to be the movers and seconds of 9.2? Sure. Thank you very much. Any objection? Madam Clerk, there's none. That's carried and as presented. Now we need to give our attention to staff. Margaret Boswell is available for questions. She may even have a presentation. I hope I'm not surprising you with that, but let me do it this way. Council, do you have any questions of Ms. Boswell before we hear the delegations? Madam Clerk, would you call the delegations?
John Carusi.
Sorry, Councillor Chisholm?
Can we hold it till after the presentations for questions?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I was a little brain dead there for a second. Sorry.
We will entertain questions. But now we welcome Mr. Carusi, and we look forward to your information.
Good evening, honorable members of council. My name is John Carusi. Our commercial property is located at 481 Morden Road in Oakville, and it's situated next door to the Dar Foundation, which is at 485 next door. Our property is leased to 4 tenants, and parking is limited to the tenants, their employees, and their clients. I'm addressing you today to express concerns regarding the proposed bylaw 97, which is intended to prohibit immobilization of vehicles from the private property in town of Oakville. So, by way of background, throughout the week, the Dar Foundation
Mr. Carusi,
Yep.
if you would address the microphone more directly, people at home and many people on council could hear you better. Thank
Sure,
you.
no problem. Okay. Throughout the week, the Dar Foundation engages in prayer sessions attended by hundreds of people. On Fridays, there are 5 prayer sessions between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. There are vehicles parked on both sides of Morden Road while these sessions are in progress. I'm surprised this is still allowed to continue, as the town is aware of the challenges for first responders to access buildings on Morden Road in the event of emergency, but it's still going on, for your information. Our tenants' rents include the usage of designated parking spots for their customers, and if we can't control the availability of these parking spots, we'll be in breach of our lease obligations and potentially lose our tenants. So while our property has adequate signage regarding parking being limited to tenants and clients of the building, this does not stop the Dar Foundation participants from parking on our property, unfortunately. When we were able to tow under the old rules, we would tow between 15 and 20 vehicles every Friday, and we would free up the designated parking spots for our tenants. The towing option under the bylaw 187 is not practical to administer, as there are a minimum of a 2-hour turnaround to have the vehicle towed, and the prayer session would be over within this time frame. They would leave, and in the meantime, and we're not talking a nuisance of 1 or 2 parked vehicles. This could be anywhere between 20 and 30 cars all at one time because there's the prayer session on. So unfortunately, that our customers and tenants cannot park in the building for that hour or so as the session is on, and that could happen 5 times on every Friday. So it's a real problem for us in particular. So as a result of the impractical application of 187, we started using the wheel boots, and this resulted in us booting approximately 10 to 12 vehicles on a Friday. Using the boots actually resulted in a reduction in the illegal parking because with the towing, another person that wanted to park illegally wouldn't know that a vehicle just got towed, but with the boots, they see them there in the parking lot and it actually deters them, so it reduces it. So it is actually quite effective for us there. But by passing this new bylaw, then it strips us of our ability to control the use of the property, and it's going to be very difficult for us to manage that property. So my ask today is simply do not pass the 97 for reasons stated above. Having said that, I do understand there are certain circumstances where it is applicable and it would do well. So as a result of that, if you do pass the bylaw, potentially adding consideration for adding provisions to define situations where the bylaw would not apply. So for example, in our case, maybe define exemptions and anywhere within a 1 kilometer basis of a worship place, you know, we can still administer because it's different from 1 or 2 vehicles parking illegally. So hopefully we can consider some sort of carve out for situations, and perhaps there are others that there's more volume and it causes problems and it's difficult to manage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cruzy. Councillor Chisholm has a question for you.
Thank you. Hi, John. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good. I know we've had many challenges with Morden and the Dar Foundation and the business there, and trying to come up with creative ideas. But unfortunately, the way the bylaw is now, it's across town, is not very specific. Yeah. The challenge we have for the public to understand, this is not just one car coming in, parking in a private parking and going to another business. It's an onslaught between the hours of 1 and 5, and traffic jams happen at Morden and Spears Road there. The challenge, would you be willing, and speaking with Selena, our director of MES, would you be willing to meet with the director and myself and Kathy with respect to looking at probably some better solutions or creative solutions in the process? Sure. I think that would be important because I think everybody needs to understand this is a real challenge for us on the Morden, and I appreciate the frustration. And I've been down there and going, well, so I do support your issues and challenge and how we can about this. But with respect to the booting, unfortunately, with the way it's going to go, it's because it's town-wide. And maybe in a solution, and through you, Your Worship, for staff to look at a solution of a site-specific solutions for this area because it's very unique in its way. So I'll just leave it as that.
Yeah, sure. I'm willing to have a discussion.
Thank you, John.
For sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't run away. Councillor O'Meara has a question for you.
Thanks so much. John, have you appointed a municipal law enforcement officer yet for the property?
I don't know if we have, Sam. We appointed? I don't think so. Not official. No. We just do it ad hoc with a tow truck company.
Because part of the discussion when we brought in the private property towing law, and I thank Councillor Adam for this, is we went down to a half an hour. So a ticket gets issued immediately, and then 30 minutes from that ticket, tow them out. So but you need to have a municipal law enforcement officer appointed, which can be yourself, it can be anyone at the building, and especially if you know it's on Fridays, there's a way to get them towed out without having to worry about any other process. You just have to appoint someone and you issue a ticket, and in half an hour, you can have the tow trucks lined up ready to go. So it's not, you know, there's a solution here that's not 2 hours, and it's not, you know.
I'll consider that. I spoke with the tow truck driver, and he mentioned that his process is 2, so I assume he's kind of assigned for us. It takes him 2 hours, so he said sometimes you have to leave a message if it's after hours with the town, and then also you don't always get a quick response. So if there's a shortcut for half an hour without getting a formal confirmation, then we'll definitely look into it.
Yeah, well, our staff will help you through that. We did contemplate this in the bylaw, and anybody can be appointed for your property. It can be you, it can be anybody you want, and especially if you know the dates and times when it happens. Yeah. It's a very quick process, and it will expedite it. And I have been for lunch across the street on a Friday and watched tow trucks come by the dozen, ready to pull. Yeah. So if they know there's money to be made for them there, they're going to be there waiting. So I'm not too worried about the tow trucks not getting what they want as soon as the half-hour program comes up. So, but yeah, we'll connect you with their director after.
I think our tow truck company is speaking virtually tonight too. Maybe he can comment on that as well. Yep. Thank you.
Councillor Chisholm has something else for you.
Thank you, John. That's the purpose of the meeting. I think we need to have some real clarity in how this is going to work. And Councillor O'Meara is bang right on and how the process works. But again, being down there to watch that, it still is going to be chaos with respect to trying to get the timing in there and getting tow trucks in there because you can't even get a car down there between the hours of 1 and 5. Yeah. So, you know, talking with the director and staff, hopefully we can assist on this.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk, the next delegation.
Michael Allen, and he's appearing virtually.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
That's good. My name is Mike Allen from Phillies Towing. I was one of the ones that started the booting, the immobilization in early March when the businesses in the area, Morden and Spears, were dealing with a large number of illegally parked cars. The properties at 481 Morden, 369 Spears, and 502 Spears Road all have to deal with this large number of cars illegally parked on their properties. The city passed a bylaw in February that prohibits us from towing vehicles in less than a half an hour. On these properties, people are parking from anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. By the time we'd get a tow truck to these locations, the people would be gone. Okay. And we find now that we're using boots, they seem to be more effective at dealing with this illegally parked cars. When the vehicle is towed from the parking lots, it's gone within 2 minutes. Another car parks in the parking spot that vehicle was towed from. When we use boots in these parking lots, we find that people see these boots. There's a deterrent for them. There's stickers placed on the windows to show that their car has been booted and they're illegally parked on these locations. With the boots cars, it saves the time for the owner and then the expense of Ubers and cabs to go to the impound lot to pick up their cars, especially at these locations when people are visiting the mosque during their lunch hour. If we are not there to help the property owners, there will be an expense to the businesses to hire security and to prevent illegally parked cars from parking on their property. The current bylaw does not also look after for businesses with parking spaces up from 1 to 6 parking spots. They face a big challenge for illegally parked cars on their premises. What else was there here also on second? When a car is towed, it's a necessary deterrent for other drivers. They see if they don't witness the car being towed. Immobilization, on the other hand, makes the problem instantly visible. Other drivers who see this will not park. It's clearly marked with the notice on the window that the car is being immobilized. It's a visual and other cars, and it's visual for other cars, and they will not park there. Now, the city has also said that within the 30 minutes that we can get a tow truck there. That's never happened. It takes anywhere from 30 to 2 hours to have a vehicle removed off a parking spot. I've spoken to the lady at the town of Oakville at the enforcement office. She said to me that it would take anywhere from 30 to 2 hours for us to get authorization to tow a vehicle from the lot, at any lot. She said that we have to wait till somebody gets and contacts us after we call the city and let them know that we'd like to have the vehicle removed from the lot. It could take anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours to deal with this problem. That's why we haven't been in the Bronte area towing. I was down in Bronte a few weeks back, witnessing about 23 to 30 cars every 2 hours parking on the lots down there. But we can't do anything yet with this because we have to figure out what the city wants to do with their 30 minutes. They've said that they would be granting us time to have these vehicles removed within 30 minutes, which is not the case. Okay, what else was there here? We find the immobilizations in the area of the Morden Road is a better way to deal with the problem they have down in that area. To have cars booted. Towing cars is fine, but I find that mobilizing cars down there would be a better deterrent for people that are parking in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your information. Council, questions? Councilor Chisholm?
Thank you. With respect to booting the vehicles, is being booted right away, or is there a time frame on booting the cars, the vehicles?
Down over at 481 Morden, 465 Morden, they're being booted right away.
So
in other areas, there's no problem with us waiting the 30-minute time limit as long as they can be booted after the 30 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Madam Clerk, would you call the next delegation?
AJ Cho.
Welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
Good evening. My name is AJ Cho. I represent Sun Valley Square. It's at 25, sorry, the mic, I'm not really good with that. It's at 2533rd line, where Dundas is. Over the time, we have actually reached out to the city. We are actually practicing booting in the plaza. And from what I've seen and from my understanding, the booting policies that have been in place for the plaza has shown a significant outcome. And for Ray, I believe, we do not boot right away as well. We actually give the offenders 30 minutes to come back before action is taken. This has shown a great ideal in providing parking space for the businesses that are tenants there. Over the time, there are 4 restaurants that are there. They usually make their margin from their lunch. From those hours, during lunchtime, you can see that the plaza has been very compounded with a number of vendors. The boot, however, has shown a great ideal in providing authority to showing other people that the plot is being monitored 24 hours. With the boot being in place, people do notice it, and it's not very easy, like you can't miss it at all. A notice is given on the window to ensure that the car has been demobilized. And the great thing about the booting is that when the offender does come back, there's an agent on the spot. So instead of panicking, because I know that Halton region, they've been having issues of people reporting that their cars have been stolen. With this booting process, it has given the offenders notice that their car is still on scene. However, it's been demobilized. With the agent being present, it has given them the opportunity to retrieve their car on the spot. Overall, we giving them 30 minutes, it still doesn't really play a big role, but we have promised the city of Oakville to providing that for offenders. Overall, I do ask the city of the city of councilors to reconsider this bill, just to look out for the tenants, because over there it's pretty compounded with a lot of people and it can get really hectic. But with one day, a boot can just show a lot. And with the boot showing that if other offenders, it makes them drive away. And not only that, it's the sticker on the window that people do read afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your information, sir. Councilor Chinna has a question for you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to clarify, the people that are parking are staying beyond half hour, and you could tell that they're not visiting the businesses. They're going across to the hospital, is that?
Absolutely, madam.
Okay.
So over those times of the offender, once he offends, we do give him time, like we should, but it's the time when you put on the boot, it deters other people. And that's one of the biggest significant things that we've seen at the Sun Valley Square. It's been showing a great deal of showing that there is like 24-hour surveillance on the parking lot. I do have a question for Sean. Sean, right? May I ask this question?
Well, actually, that's a little out of order.
Oh, okay. No pressure.
But,
thank you, though.
But I was going to thank you for your information.
Yeah. Oh, well,
Okay.
thank you for having me here. I
you.
appreciate you guys for everything you guys are doing.
Thank
But I
you.
do ask that you guys really reconsider this bill, because the tenants are having a rough time. They've been asking me to, well, not asking me, but they've been asking the tow company to tow. But however, it's been making it very difficult, even though with the sign is so big.
Well, thank you. It's clear to me, at least, that we have a bigger problem that we may not have found the right solution for yet. So thank you for bringing that information to us.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. That is all the delegations we had registered. Councilor Chisholm.
Yes, Your Worship. 9.3, I'd like to do a deferral on this. Do we do a little bit more homework on this with staff?
All righty.
I'm asking for a deferral.
You need a seconder. Councilor Dudek. Yeah. We understand you to be referring it back to staff to work on this problem. We have speakers. You can only speak to the referral rather than the motion. So Councilor O'Meara and then Councilor Adams.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. You know, a referral does absolutely nothing to the issues about the DAR Foundation. That has been going on long before there was a towing issue. We have heard all of this before. We always give people half an hour. It's the same story every time from the same cast of characters every time. A referral, all that's going to do is to further alienate people from our areas that are being subjected to this, from our areas. The ticketing hasn't even started yet. We don't have any MLEOs yet. Nobody's business owners have applied for it yet. They're not doing what the program is supposed to do. They've gone right to how do we make more money to boot. And referring it will just allow more and more money to go into the pockets rather than trying to change the behavior of a ticket of $55, which will do the point that no private property owner has gone forward and done yet. So we haven't even allowed because the people doing this are finding another way to put money in their pockets. So let's let the bylaw go. Let's nip this in the butt now, and referring it is, as the summer months come, is only going to wreak more havoc in our areas. I would beg my council colleagues, there's always ways to amend this if it's not working. There's way to adjust it, but letting the Wild West go with these boots now is not the way to go about it. And even giving 2 or 3 months more is just more money into the tow industry's pockets. It doesn't help the private property owners. I've spoken to a business owner who uses them and say, now the vehicles don't even leave. They're stuck there. And now I can't even get the parking space back. So I'm asking my council colleagues, please don't refer this, pass the motion, let it start playing out the way it's supposed to play out, and actually have property owners start appointing MLEOs so that this program can be executed the way it should, rather than having them go around with now boots, which should never have been the case. So I beg my council colleagues, please do not refer this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Adams.
Thanks very much. I agree with Councillor O'Meara. I'm completely on side with you, Sean, on this. If council members want some additional information, I would recommend that we pass the recommendation of staff that's before us tonight, and then ask them to come back with additional information later. I'd rather have this in place and not wait for however many months we have to wait for it to come back. Because the stories I've heard from residents about how they've been effectively extorted in a parking lot is shocking.
Okay, Councillor, thank you. Councillor McNeice.
Thank you, through your worship. I'm in favor of what the 2 speakers already have spoken to. And in my reading of the Trespass of Property Act, states that property owners cannot legally immobilize or detain someone else's vehicle while it's on their land. So I think what they're doing right now is not even legal or proper based on the Trespass of Property Act. I agree we need to nip it in the bud. I don't see how it frees up parking. We've heard stories of them leaving vehicles for up to 3 days, or telling them they could have up to 3 days to pay up before they get out. So I don't see referring it solving anything. I feel for the DAR Foundation area. I think there's potentially a special events solution we need to look to, because there's such a mass flux. It's a special situation of so many people coming to an event at a certain time. But the rest of the areas throughout town is a different situation. I agree, people are being treated very poorly, and the punishment doesn't fit the crime. So I will not support a referral. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elgar.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. I also cannot support this motion. Too many emails of people with how they're being treated. So I'm glad we're doing something here tonight. And I look forward, if staff come up with some solutions for the specific areas, that's fine. But I will not support a referral.
Thank you. Councillor Haslett-Dill.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. Can I just ask staff, in terms of time to consider an exemption, and procedurally, Mayor Burton, you may have to help with this, but if there is an exemption as a result of a unique circumstances, can we add that? How long would it take for you to draft that? And could we add that without having to require, I believe it's 3/4 of a vote, a majority vote, or on reconsideration?
Councillor, I don't believe that those are the requirements to amend a bylaw.
So we don't have to have a reconsideration vote?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, unless you wanted to pass something that's contrary to the bylaw, but an exemption wouldn't be contrary.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I'll be supporting the bylaw as drafted, and hopefully we can come up with an exemption criteria to support our council colleagues and the challenges that they're facing at Spears and Morden. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Then I will put the vote on the referral to staff. And those in favor, please raise your hands. It's close, but the referral fails. I would like to recognize Councillor McNeice, who would like to offer a change to the bylaw. Councillor McNeice.
Could I just direct a question towards staff, just on the effective date? As proposed, I believe it's June 16th. Now, is this time needed to train staff, or what's notification? What is your recommendation on the implementation date?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The implementation date was precisely for those reasons, for notification, to ensure that we have an opportunity to provide public education, update our documents, and make sure that the officers are prepared to move forward with enforcement. If we were to move that effective date up, that is something that we could do. However, I would say that we would still have to go through that process of ensuring that the public is notified, that the businesses and interested parties are notified, before we would take really enforcement action. So any violations that would happen in the beginning would really just be warnings that would be provided. I would, however, add that if the bylaw is passed as it is today, with the adjusted effective date, it would provide vehicle owners with the opportunity to have that support to collect money if there were any civil action.
Okay. Your Worship, I think I'll leave it as is then. I'm happy with that rationale.
All right, Councillor Chisholm.
So we have the drop dead date is June 16th, yes, June 16th, correct? I go back, I'm going to circle back with respect to meeting with some of the business owners on Morden. I think that would be beneficial to clearly understand, and also help them, assist them along through the process. So if we can get that done prior to the 16th, would that work for, through you, Your Worship, to staff? Selena, would that work? Through
you, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely. We would be happy to meet with the property owners, any interested parties, and really help them through that process. Much like Councillor O'Meara had noted earlier, there is opportunity that hasn't been taken advantage of in many of these properties, where you can appoint an MLEO if you have the appropriate signage. They could issue a ticket immediately, so that penalty is there, the notice is provided, and sort of caution given to those vehicle owners about, unauthorized parking and their responsibilities. Further, we can arrange to have staff there. So although there is sort of a general half-hour to 2-hour response time that we've set up for these, knowing that we have scheduled problems, we can assign staff to support those property owners on a Friday afternoon. So that sort of support can be provided.
Thank
But
you,
they
Selena.
really do need the MLAO.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Councillor McNeese.
I'm just prepared to move the motion at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Who wants to second it? Councillor O'Meara? Is there any objection to the motion? Councillor Dudek and Councillor Chisholm. It's close, but the motion carries. All right, thank you, everybody. That brings us to discussion item number 11. I want to move that to the end of the meeting so that I can treat you guys to some in-camera discussions with legal, and I will move that down here. And I'd call your attention to the next item, 11.2, the 2024 Audited Financial Statements and External Audit Findings Report. And we have an introductory statement from Jade Surgener, and we're going to have a presentation from our auditors, KPMG. Ms. Surgener.
Good evening, Mayor Burton and members of council. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to item 11.2 on the agenda, where the recommendations before you are to receive the 2024 audit findings report and to approve the 2024 draft financial statements for both the town and the trust. I'd like to start with a few words on the financial statements, and then I'll introduce the auditors who can walk through or speak to the results of their audit, and then I'm happy to answer any questions you may have for management. So in terms of the audit, the town is required to prepare annual financial statements that must be audited by an independent third party and approved by council. These statements are consolidated, which means they include the results of the town itself, Oakville Public Library, the 3 BIAs, Oakville Municipal Development Corporation, as well as the town's ownership portion of Halton Digital Access Services Corporation and Oakville Enterprises Corporation. And so although consolidated here, these entities all prepare their own financial statements, which are audited and have been or will be approved by their respective boards. And as a municipality, these financial statements are prepared in accordance with public sector accounting standards. And this is important to highlight every year, as these standards differ from the practices the town uses for budget purposes. And to assist council and other users of the financial statements, Appendix D is prepared each year to show how the year-end variance report that council received in April reconciles to these audited financial statements. So although different purposes for budget and accounting, these two presentation methods do reconcile. The last item that I wanted to highlight for 2024 is that there were 3 new accounting standards that the town was required to adopt. There was a new standard on revenue recognition, a standard on public-private partnerships, as well as one on purchased intangibles. And for 2024, there was an adjustment that we did related to the new revenue standard in advance of the auditors coming. And so this new standard changed the way that we recorded parking ticket revenues. So historically, we had treated these on a cash basis due to the uncertainty of collections, where in 2024, we were required to estimate and do a full analysis of what percentage of parking ticket revenues we expect to collect in the future and record everything on an accrual basis. Note 2 to the financial statements highlights this in more detail, and the other 2 standards didn't impact the town in 2024, but will continue to assess in future years. I just wanted to highlight this one as it is unique for this year. So at this time, I'll pass things along to Matt Ceradelli and Carlos Alvarez, who are the audit partner and audit senior manager on the engagement.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. We are pleased to walk you through the results of the fiscal 2024 audit. Within Appendix A of your materials is the audit findings report. And where we would like to begin is by providing some overall audit highlights, which for those who are following along is on page number 4 of the report. I can confirm with all members of council that the way that we conducted the audit was in line and consistent with our audit plan. We did not have to pivot or introduce any new procedures along the way. Maybe the town clerk can move to page number 4, please. Wonderful, thank you. In terms of risk assessment, we'll walk you through some of those items that from our perspective, are the areas of the audit that required the majority of our audit attention. And I'll let Matt speak to that just in a few minutes. I can confirm with you that based on our audit, there were no significant unusual transactions that we encountered. And also, very important, we are here, we are engaged to audit your books and records. I can confirm with council that there were no corrected or uncorrected misstatements, and that we received all of the cooperation, and your management team was responsive to all of our requests. Moving along further in the report, on to page number 6. There are a few items that are outstanding as of today. These are very customary to where we are in the audit process. There is one legal letter that we expect to receive very shortly, and we will ask your management team to sign a very important letter. There is a letter that's entitled the Management Representation Letter, which does a good job in terms of outlining what are management's responsibilities as it pertains to your financial statements versus the responsibilities of the external auditor. We will ask management to sign that letter and provide it to us. And at that point in time, once all of these items that are listed on slide number 6 are complete, then I will proceed to sign the auditor's report. Moving along further in the slide deck to page number 7. As a reminder, we as auditors do not audit every single piece of paper and every single transaction. If there's one number to remember in my report, in our report, is our tolerance for audit differences. Our audit tolerance was set at approximately $700,000. So any differences that we would have detected as part of our audit process that would have hit that mark, we would have included in this report to you as members of council. Moving along further in the report, page number 8. Fraud is a risk that we as auditors are required to respond to. Fraud happens, unfortunately. I can confirm with council that based on all of the audit evidence that we would have examined, the results of our inquiries, the results of all of our procedures, that there are no reportable items with respect to fraud to bring forward to your attention. On the next slide, we also outline a second risk that we're always required to consider, and that is the risk that your management team fraudulently misrepresents revenue through revenue recognition. This is a rebuttable risk from an audit standpoint. We do rebut the specific fraud risk because of the nature of your revenues, but we still perform substantive tests, whether it be on taxation revenues, grant revenue, user charges, developer contributions, based on all of your significant revenue streams and all the work that we conducted. We did not uncover any bias, that was exercised by management, nor any fraud on the topic of revenue recognition. I will pause and just pass it over to Matt to go through a few of the additional areas before he passes it back.
Great, thank you very much, Carlos. I will pick up right where you left off on the current slide and just detail that our testing over the town's revenue streams is multi-pronged. Certainly, we do some work over the annual tax levy and ensure that revenue is recognized in accordance with the approved and posted rates. Also, for any government funding from other levels of government, we do substantively sample and test certain grants or deposits, vouching to funding letters and cash in the bank, and then ensuring that any criteria to recognize that revenue for the year have been met. And also some work over the smaller sources such as user fees, as Carlos mentioned, but certainly the biggest lift is on the developer contributions, both contributed assets and developer charges themselves. That was a material number this year on your financial statements, as it is most years. So certainly something that takes us a little bit of time to audit. But as Carlos mentioned, nothing in terms of issues to bring to your attention in any of those areas of focus. Moving on to the next slide, please. The second largest area of focus, as expected in our audit plan and very customary for audits of municipalities or other government organizations, tangible capital assets. This number will always be extremely material to your financial statements by nature. So certainly each year, us as auditors have a bit of a lift to get through all of the additions, both to work in progress and completed assets. We do sample to ensure that WIP is moved and begins being amortized as a completed asset when it is put into use, and that the capitalization criteria in the public sector accounting standards guidebook is all satisfied before those transactions are actioned. We also look at a series of expense accounts that may relate to capital items, just to ensure that anything that should have been capitalized but may have been missed was considered. And the last thing I'll mention is in prior years, you may remember the significant addition of the asset retirement obligation accounting standard. That was a very large lift in the previous year's initial implementation. However, in each subsequent year, management's requirements to revise that estimate are significantly less in terms of workload and judgment than in that first year. So we did look at management's work in that area in year 2, but certainly did not need to spend as much time to gather the evidence that we were required to get, as year 2's lift was much smaller than year 1 in that regard. With that, I think I'll pass it on to Carlos for the next slide, which retreads a little bit of ground on the topic of new accounting standards that Jade alluded to earlier.
Yes, certainly your management team provided us with their analysis on the accounting change with respect to the new accounting standard on revenues. We concur with the position taken by management, and we're satisfied that the adoption of the new standard was appropriate and appropriately reflected throughout your financial statements. Moving along to slide number 12. We are satisfied that the draft financial statements included in your package have all of the appropriate disclosures that one would expect to see in a set of financial statements for a municipality within the province of Ontario. We can also make a comment that the look and the feel of the financial statements is also consistent with what you would have seen in the prior year, being 2023. Moving along to the next slide, please. Just a couple quick items. Everything from illegal acts, down to related parties and other, matters of interest. You can see on the slide that we, as external auditors, have no items to report in any of the areas listed. It has been some time since we conducted our field work. The date of this report, that we're discussing would have been dated back in April. We are not aware of any additional subsequent events that have transpired between April and today being May the 26th. Certainly, if there are material subsequent events that you may have expected to see in your financial statements, please do let us know if there's anything that you expected to see that is not currently in your financial statements. Moving forward in the report, on page number 16, As part of our audit process, we do document your processes. We do various tests on different processes that you have as an organization. We do categorize deficiencies into 2 buckets. Bucket number 1 are deficiencies that are considered to be significant, and the second bucket being other deficiencies. I can confirm with you that there were no significant deficiencies that we encountered or uncovered as part of the audit process. And as well, in the second bucket, in terms of other deficiencies, there were no other reportable findings to bring forward to your attention. Moving along further in the report, I'm getting close to the end. On page number 18, it is always important for your auditors to bring up the topic of independence. Our audit report, the very first word is independent. I can confirm with all of you as members of council that throughout the entire fiscal year and all the way up until today, that we as a firm of chartered accountants remained independent. I do often get some questions about, provide me with an example. The clearest example is that we are here to audit your books and records. We are not here to prepare them. So I can confirm with you that, for example, the adoption of the new accounting standards, we waited for management to perform their analysis, write their paper, and then provide it to us, and then we audited their position. And that's the ideal scenario. So we remained independent all the way up until today. We have included in your package within the findings report a series of appendices. My plan was not to go through each and every one in any detail. I would like to highlight that on page number 23, we as auditors, we do have certain rules that we need to abide by, and they're under the umbrella of the Canadian auditing standards. There was one change in fiscal 2024 around the concept of group audits. Because your financial statements have the term consolidated, we did have to implement this new standard, but it had no significant or notable impact on our audit approach. On page number 24, finally, these are some items that certainly are areas that provide insights based on our knowledge of municipalities and other organizations that you can sort of take away to use as learning tools as you're part of discharging your responsibilities. So overall, from an audit standpoint, I would say it was a no surprises audit. Everything went according to plan, and it was a clean audit. So the audit report that is included in your package is unqualified, and that means that we have no reservations. And once those items are cleared off of our outstanding list, I will be prepared to sign the auditor's report. So with that, I would like to turn it back to your worship, Mayor Burton.
Thank you very much. I always have one question of the auditor. Does that amount to a suggestion that you're about to issue a clean audit letter?
That is correct, your worship.
Thank you. That's the headline I'm looking for. Council, any questions? Council, the indicated motion is to receive the information from the audit findings report and to approve the consolidated financial statements and the trust fund financial statements. Councillor Knoll and Councillor Longo. Any objection? Madam Clerk, there being none, that is approved. Now, that leads us to Oakville Enterprises Corporation's AGM. Welcome to the AGM. And our business on this item is the appointment of auditors and the approval of financial statements. And our CEO, President Rob Lister, is here to start the presentations. I think you turned your mic off, or anyway, there you go, it's on now.
Working now? All right, good evening. Glad to be here for our AGM this year. With me from OEC, usual cast of characters, Laura Wilson, Chief Financial and Technology Officer, who will be coming up in a few minutes to talk to our 2024 financial performance. We have Mary Caputi, EVP of Enterprise Services and Chief of Staff. Scott Moody, EVP, Chief Operations and Energy Officer. Andrew Elmzir, Chief Commercial Officer. Jeff Mocha, Chief Operations and Electrification Officer, who now oversees Oakville Hydro. So you call him when you have Oakville Hydro problems. Sean McCoggan, EVP and Chief Operating and Strategy Officer, and Andy Petrin, Director of Strategic Communications and Brand Experience. So on this slide in the background, this is one of our transformers at Glenorchy Transformer Station at 6th Line and just north of the 407. This is an Oakville Hydro-owned transformer station. It takes electricity from the Hydro One system at 230,000 volts, transforms it down to 27,600 volts, which we distribute through the town of Oakville. So today, 3 topics of discussion: proposed board of directors for OEC and Oakville Hydro, highlights and business updates, and a 2024 financial review. So these individuals currently on the screen are the proposed slate of board of directors for OEC and Oakville Hydro. We're very fortunate to have a very broad group of experience of individuals who look after, accountable for the governance of OEC and Oakville Hydro, and their breadth of experience we certainly be able to take advantage of. From left to right, needing no introduction, Mayor Rob Burton. Brian Johnson, our representative from our shareholder, Enbridge. Again, no introduction needed. Jane Cloesy, Town of Oakville CAO. David Brennan, our board chair. Bipasha Chu, Paul Pasturik, Jane Allen, Monique Buckberger, Ian Cockwell, Patrick Crowley, Timothy Smith, Janet Wilkinson, Harold Holloway, myself, Rob Lister, and Cheryl Watson. The diagram is structured to identify the individuals proposed for the OEC board on the left, the Oakville Hydro board on the right, and the 3 individuals in the middle that hold positions on both boards. This structure is aligned with the requirements of the Ontario Energy Board as it relates to Oakville Hydro. So the candidates for the Oakville Hydro board will be appointed by the OEC board at their next board meeting on June 10th. So business highlights. Our organization has continued to perform well in 2024. I've chosen 9 areas of interest to highlight for council our successes. As of March 1st, OEC attained an enterprise value of $940 million, so we are closing in on the $1 billion mark. We've now grown to over 3,000 employees across Canada. We've increased our expansion into Western Canada through the majority ownership stake of Primary Engineering Construction, operating out of Calgary with 9 additional offices across Canada. We're supporting Enbridge's asset renewal, providing field services and as constructed documentation for their Enbridge's St. Laurent pipeline replacement project in Ottawa. This project started in April 2025 and will continue through to the end of 2026. We are executing the advanced metering infrastructure project that I've spoken to council for before on Vancouver Island, where in partnership with the Cowichan tribe, we are launching a 3-year gas meter replacement program for Fortis, BC. To support growing electricity demand, we're supporting the Ontario Energy Board with maintaining a province-wide electricity distribution capacity map. We've entered into a joint ownership arrangement with Envari, a subsidiary of Hydro Ottawa, of TerraFlex, our Ottawa-based construction company. We've launched or taken significant steps in phase 2 of our PAIR commitment, having recently launched initiatives aimed at strengthening Indigenous relations. PAIR stands for Partnership Accreditation in Indigenous Relations. Building on the foundation laid in phase 1, OEC is actively developing and implementing strategic actions that will have a positive and lasting impact on Indigenous communities. And most importantly, our health and safety program and our and performance. We have an industry-leading safety and health and safety program. It pervades the enterprise. Safety is our top priority. We utilize leading indicators to drive the focus and priority of safety in everything we do. It's a daily priority, and we have very good safety performance. Our businesses are also CORE certified. CORE stands for Certificate of Recognition Program. It's an occupational safety and health accreditation program that verifies a fully implemented safety and health management system which meets national standards. It is the ultimate in safety accreditation, and OEC is heavily invested in it. So with these examples, I hope Council is encouraged and excited about OEC's future as we are. So I'll give a couple updates on what's happening at the Independent Electricity System Operator, the ISO, in Ontario. They've provided a revised demand forecast that projects electricity energy requirement in Ontario to increase by 75% by 2050. This is for energy consumption, represents a 2.2% compounded annual growth rate. The winter seasonal peak demand is projected to grow from 23 gigawatts in 2026 to 37 gigawatts in 2050, a difference of of 13 gigawatts, which represents 57% in 24 years, which is about 2% compounded growth. The release of the new EDSM, Electricity Demand Side Management Program. This has been brought forward by the Ontario government and the ISO. It's a long-term strategy aiming at enhancing energy efficiency across Ontario. It helps consumers manage electricity costs. It reduces future system expenses by lowering demand, and it provides market stability for energy service providers. Some of the program examples include home renovation savings program, rebates for home energy efficiency improvements, expansion of the Peak Perks program, which is smart thermostat adjustments for small businesses, and the Save on Energy programs, which you're familiar with. To maintain a competitive and efficient wholesale electricity market, the ISO has improved the way electricity is scheduled and priced across the province through the Market Renewal Program. This has been a multi-year initiative and has finally been launched. This project will deliver significant value to the system and Ontario consumers, an estimated $700 million in benefits in the first 10 years. And then there's progress on various transmission and capacity investments projects. There's a new transmission line under development in southwestern Ontario. There's a switchyard is being rebuilt at the Bruce Generating Plant, and the ISO is holding electricity capacity auctions and is having good industry participation. This is a photo of Minister Stephen Lecce, Minister of Energy and Mines. Earlier this month, the Ontario government approved Ontario Power Generation's plan to begin construction of the first of 4 SMRs, small modular reactors, at the Darlington Nuclear Plant in Bowmanville. This is the first small modular reactor in the G7 countries. With the 4 SMRs, the Darlington plant, including the existing facility, will produce enough energy to power 1.2 million homes. An update on electric vehicles. The electric vehicle market is seeing some turbulent times. 2.3% of the vehicles in Ontario are electric. Meanwhile, Oakville continues to lead the pack at 11.6% of where the vehicles are electric. However, EV adoption is dropping, coinciding with pauses on the subsidy programs, as well as the general global economic challenges that you've been reading about. A little bit about the Oakville Hydro's electricity system. We are now serving over 78,000 customers, 90% of which are residential. And in 2024, we added 1,535 new customers. Oakville Hydro continues to operate one of Canada's most advanced automated electricity distribution systems. Automated switches give our control operators the flexibility to reroute power through millions of possible configurations, enabling rapid power restoration. The infrastructure has contributed to industry-leading reliability, excuse me, with an average interruption time of 28 minutes per year per customer and 1.2 interruptions per customer per year. Financially, in 2024, Oakville Hydro achieved an annual regulated rate of return of 9.68%, In regulated local distribution companies, this is strong financial performance and is aligned with the Ontario Energy Board requirements. A couple notes about electrification. Oakville Hydro's long-term investment plan is designed to meet the town of Oakville's growing energy needs while maintaining grid reliability, affordability, and sustainability. Between now and 2050, Oakville Hydro estimates gross capital investments of $900 million under a low electrification scenario, increasing to $1.1 billion under a high electrification scenario. These investments will support the anticipated growth of Oakville's population and employment in the town, leading to a projected 50% to 100% increase in electricity demand over the same time period. Key investment categories include new and upgraded distribution lines, a new transformer station similar to Glenorchy, and innovative technologies for advanced load management. OEC Renewables continues to pursue renewable energy investments. Our three main areas include geo-exchange assets in condominiums and commercial buildings, our Sunny Shores solar farm in Picton, rooftop solar installations, one of which is on the roof of this building, and the run-of-the-river generating stations. So at this point, I'd like to invite Laura Wilson to come forward and speak to our 2024 financials. Thank you. Laura?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I thank you very much for the opportunity to be here tonight, and I'm pleased to present OEC's financial highlights. OEC is well positioned to deliver above industry average growth, driven by high levels of industry activity in infrastructure services, influenced by our customers' needs for comprehensive solutions, providing recurring revenue for OEC. And OEC's diverse portfolio is a competitive advantage for the organization, providing the ability to offer a broader range of services to our customers. OEC's diversified portfolio is also, it provides financial stability to the organization by reducing overall business risk. I apologize. The chart on this slide shows earnings growth using EBITDA as a metric. EBITDA is often used as a proxy for cash income and stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. This chart highlights growth achieved from 2020 through 2024 and strategic growth goals for the organization through 2029. OEC is positioned very well to deliver significant shareholder value through increased dividends and higher enterprise value. It is anticipated that OEC will reach an enterprise value of $1.2 billion by 2029. OEC continued to deliver very strong financial performance in 2024, with revenues of $674 million and $28.2 million in total earnings or comprehensive income. I am excited to share that enterprise value grew to be approximately $870 million in 2024, a $30 million increase over the prior year. And with the acquisition of Primary Engineering and Construction in 2025, enterprise value has now grown to approximately $940 million. Shareholders' equity at December 31st, 2024 was $217.9 million. The chart on this slide highlights OEC's earnings growth over the last 5 years, an impressive 2.5 times over 2020, driven by both organic growth and growth through acquisition. OEC continues to build on previous achievements and a growth culture that is focused on increasing OEC's enterprise value and value for shareholders. We are very excited about the potential dividend growth over the next few years. The 2025 dividend to the town of Oakville will be $12.2 million, due to be paid in June this year. With OEC's strategic growth strategy to increase shareholder value, the 2029 dividend goal is approaching $20 million. Across the country, we remain actively engaged in our communities, partnering with Indigenous peoples and supporting local initiatives. We continue to partner with the Outland Youth Employment Program, where we recently engaged with Indigenous youth in Thunder Bay, Quesnel, and Southern Alberta to share industry career opportunities and provide mentorship for transitioning into the energy sector workforce. As mentioned in a previous slide, we are also actively involved with the Canadian Council for Indigenous Business through the Progressive Aboriginal Relations Program. With Oakville Hydro, UTS, Planview, EMB, GTEL, QSP, and PVS all committing in 2024 to advance leadership, employment, business development, and community relationships. Each company continues to drive progress through committed engagement with the program. This concludes OEC's update, and I'd like to just end this update by highlighting a project in Black Pines, British Columbia, the Trans Mountain 138 kV transmission line project that Primary Engineering is delivering engineering services for. Systems studied include structure grounding, lightning and shielding, conductor thermal characterization, and system induction studies to ensure compliance with applicable codes and standards. Thank you very much for your time this evening, and we'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wilson. And you've got some. Councillor O'Meara, Councillor Knoll. I'll stop naming. Everybody will go before we're done. Councillor O'Meara.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. I promise I'll be quick. Are there any red flags coming up with the tariff issue going on with any of the businesses at OEC? Are we monitoring anything closely than anything else? Or what's our position or our concerns with that?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Our many of our businesses, their pricing model, they have the ability to pass some of these costs on to customers. They're not really, most of them are not fixed price contracts. And where it makes sense, some of our businesses have started to invest a little bit more in inventory in advance of some of those higher pricing coming in. But something we're monitoring very closely and do not see as a significant risk to the organization at this time.
Super. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. Quick question on the financial statements. So what accounts for the dip between 2023 and 2024 in terms of additional revenue? I saw it's in the other income category. What occurred?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we anticipated in 2024 that we would see some reductions in capital programs for some of our customers, some of our major customers, and that did play out. We are starting to see some of those programs returning, and our diversified model shows strong growth potential going forward. But it was anticipated, and it is starting to come back.
Do you understand the causality of you anticipated, but what do you attribute the decrease to?
Some of it was expected just to some of the regulatory decisions that were made for some of our larger customers as they work through those decisions. Over time, that work will continue to come back.
Ford of Canada still doesn't purchase energy from us, is that correct?
That's correct.
So none of their metrics about their consumption or anything are included in our statistics. They're strictly off the book, and that's on Ontario Hydro or Hydro One, whatever they're called now.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. Great presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Knoll. Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks for an excellent presentation, Laura. I love the dividend for 2025. Thank you. This might be a Rob question, but you mentioned the IESO is looking at small modular reactors. With what's going on with the U.S. administration currently, is there any risk of kind of issues with the U.S. if we choose, or Ontario chooses any of those SMRs for Ontario?
I haven't, to you, Mayor Burton, I haven't read anything that would imply that. Now, the SMRs, it's a combination of U.S. and Canadian technology, so by proceeding with SMRs, they are going to be using U.S. technology. But I have not read anything that would suggest that that's not going ahead, and the province of Ontario is pretty committed to it.
So the CANDU reactor, or CANDU, is that possibly part of this, which would be the Canadian part of it? Westinghouse, GE being big players in that space.
It's a Westinghouse GE type of product. So I'm not familiar enough with the technology to know how much of the CANDU plays into it.
Okay, thanks.
But we'd like you to be in charge of that. Councillor Lischina.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Lister, please stay with Laura, because this might be for both. Originally, when I was looking at the financial statements, the discontinued operation, so note 9 about TerraFlux, so I was going to ask that question. But then in your business highlights, you mentioned that you've entered into a shared ownership of TerraFlux, but it says that it was basically sold and gone. So could you clarify that, please, for me?
I could answer that, but Laura will do a better job of answering it.
OEC did enter into a joint operation with regards to TerraFlex. The reason it showed as discontinued on our financials is it's a loss of control. OEC no longer has control of the organization, so we were required to show it that way, but we are very much in a partnership and are sharing in the running of that organization.
Thank you, that makes sense now.
And it's a 50-50 arrangement with Hydro Ottawa.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You started off your presentation with the industry-leading reliability. And just curious, how is that measured? Like, what are the metrics for that? Is it number of events, number of minutes, number of dark households? And how do we compare to other areas in the province? I'm just curious.
Through you, Mayor Burton. There's a number of different ways to measure it, but the leading ones are, it's called SAIDI, which references like the duration of an outage, and then there's a frequency measure. So it's all recorded, and it measures the duration of every individual outage, and then that's put in terms of how often it happens and how many customers are. So how frequent and number of customers impacted, then also the duration and the number of customers impacted. Then that's all totalized. You end up with those two main frequency and duration measures, and then they are compared industry-wide. And so when you do the industry-wide comparisons, we are leading in the, not the best in the country, but we are certainly in a leadership position in the country. And also depends, like rural hydro one, you would expect theirs is lower because of the rural distribution. So you want to compare apples to apples, you would have to compare us to another suburban type environment, which we do with the like Burlington and Halton Hills and Electra and some of those organizations, and we do very well relative to those.
And you mentioned leading in the country.
Well, if you look at the reliability indices across the country, and a lot of the utilities across the country are full province utilities, but our reliability numbers are, in many cases, better than many of them.
Well, you mentioned that you're doing very well. It certainly sounds like you're doing
we're doing excellent, yeah. But we've provided council some numbers before. Part of the challenge is when we provide numbers, they're always about a year after the fact. So it takes that long to collect. We can provide our numbers as of today, but when comparing, there's a delay. But yeah, we are at the sort of the top of the list when it comes
Great
to reliability.
stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Elgar.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. I appreciate the information and the numbers I see. My question is related to communities with 100 amp service going forward into the future. Most houses have 100 amp service in older subdivisions 20 years old and older. Some were 60. But with the projection of where we're going with electric vehicles, what stage and roughly will we have to put in all new infrastructure underground to the houses where they need 200 amp service because they do have 2 electric cars?
Through you, Mayor Burton. There's a couple things there. I understand that the building code does not require 200 amp services in new housing, which is an unfortunate development. There are an awful lot of 100 amp, 60 amp services out there. For anything new that Oakville Hydro puts in, the lines that we put in up to the meter can handle 200 amp, even though it's not a 200 amp service. So when that household decides to convert to a 200 amp, the Oakville Hydro wiring is already there for that. That's for new builds. For existing builds, it's going to be a challenge. For EV charging, that's where timed, managed charging comes into play, and you got to spread your charging over time, just to not overload your panel, or you don't do it when you're running your dishwasher or your dryer or your air conditioner. There are solutions, not great solutions, but that's the way it's going to have to be for a while.
So what about the underground lines that are not, that are going down the street? If everybody gets 2 electric cars in the street, does the line have to be expanded similar to what you're saying right now?
We're in pretty good shape in terms of capacity of the distribution system. There's a lot of capacity in distribution systems across the country, and the capacity is designed for those coldest days of the year and the hottest days of the year. And the other 50 weeks or 48 weeks in the year, there's a lot of capacity. So it'll have to be managed through those peak periods, but it'll just come down to managing it.
But I did hear you say in new subdivisions now, you're running line big enough that you could support more capacity.
Yes.
If people want it.
Yes.
But you're saying not to worry if a community only has 100 amp service and everybody wants an electric, couple of cars each.
I'm not worried about it.
Okay. Okay. Do you think the homeowners might be?
Well, I only have a 100 amp panel in my house. And my breaker vibrates sometimes. No. The electric vehicle adoption is slow. If we're only looking at outside of Oakville, like 2, 3, 4%, those are not big numbers. And so anything that happens, in my experience in the industry, like we worry a lot, but then things take a lot of time in order to actually materialize. So I believe there'll be lots of time for adequate investment to adjust for the increased demand that's going to come from electrification. And there's also things that can be done to reduce load in a household also. So you have to look at what can be reduced against what's going to be increased.
I thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Lister, maybe you'd like to expand a little bit for everybody's benefit how maybe the role the OEB plays in deciding what you can build and what plant you can expand and how that all works into the future rates.
Yes, the process with the Ontario Energy Board is the utilities would go through a cost of service process and identify what the capital requirements are in order to manage the utility moving forward. The current rates are set based on the current requirements and the revenue requirement that the utility puts forward. It gets tested, it gets decided by the OEB in the end of the day. And so the utilities are limited to what the OEB has essentially sanctioned for capital investment. So utility just can't go and spend whatever it wants if it had the financial capacity to do so. So it is controlled by the Ontario Energy Board in terms of the amount of investment that the
So would our utility go to the OEB and say, we want to build this bigger line and this is the cost and we'd like it included in our rate, and then we would find out whether or not the OEB agreed with our need assessment?
That's correct. You would put the proposal forward and the Ontario Energy Board would decide whether they deemed it to be a responsible use of customers' money.
So I hope that helps. Okay, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
I would like to look for a mover and seconder. Councillor Lischina, Councillor Shia. Is there any objection? Madam Clerk, there being none, the OEC AGM matter is approved, and I've banged the microphone again. Now we have another AGM, and that's the Oakville Municipal Development Corporation. And again, it's the appointment of auditors, directors, approval of financial statements, and a presentation by the CEO of OMDC, Mr. Mark Maneri. Welcome to the meeting, and we look forward to your information.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could call upon the clerk's office to advance the slides for me, I'd be very grateful, just because I'm not a whiz at this stuff. Anyway, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you tonight since our last annual general meeting. There are a few things I do want to update council on and a few points I'd like to make, most of which are in the annual update letter that the board did provide to the shareholder, but there's still a few points I think that are worth pulling out. Moving to this slide that's up there in front of you, I just want to take a very short piece of time to talk to you about what the mandate of the Oakville MDC is and remind you the purpose of the Municipal Development Corporation and why we're here. And the reason that you decided to create an Oakville Municipal Development Corporation is to maximize the value of your surplus real estate holdings in the municipality, maximizing in both terms of financial returns to the town as shareholder, but also to the residents in terms of community benefits that can be gained through the corporation. We look to create long-term relationships with development partners by way of joint ventures and limited partnerships so that we can ensure that there's a continuing stream of income to the town over a long period of time. Moving to slide 3, as the master developer, which is the role the Oakville Municipal Development Corporation assumes, we participate in the oversight of the development throughout the entire process to ensure that the town's objectives are always met by having feet on the ground. And the most important advantage, I believe, of the Oakville Municipal Development model is that there's a clear separation of responsibilities between the town as the approving authority and the Oakville Municipal Development Corporation as the developer, so there is absolutely no perception of conflict whatsoever. Moving to the next slide, to remind you, the board of directors of the corporation are comprised of both municipal and community representatives who bring both the public's and the municipality's interests to the board meetings and make sure that the right balance is drawn between the objectives of the community and the municipality. You're very well served by this very capable group of individuals, and I will remind you that the board does serve for a 3-year term, which is of great advantage to the corporation because it provides that continuity and corporate knowledge that we need to be able to deliver on our objectives. I'd like to speak briefly about the board's activities this past year and what we're planning to do in the future. There are 4 near-term priority projects that the Oakville MDC is currently working on that I hope you're familiar with. The former Public Works site on Trafalgar Road, the former Fire Hall number 3 site on Randall Street, the former Oakville Trafalgar Hospital and High School lands, and the newest project, Parking Lot 8. Beginning first with the former Public Works site and moving to slide 5, the last year has been all about finalizing the pre-development work to position the site so that we can finally bring a subdivision application, and I'm pleased to tell you that that has actually happened. The board did approve a final master plan update in December of last year, building upon your 2018 master plan, and introduced through that new plan further efficiencies, enhancing connectivity, and adding new green space to the site. As I'm showing you on slide 6, a public information meeting was held on February 26th, and the formal transfer of the lands to the Oakville MDC actually occurred on March 20th. Following this land transfer, the subdivision, zoning, and official plan amendment applications were submitted to the town on April 4th. And it's important to realize that this staging of the transfer was done intentionally to ensure that we could make that application in the name of the Oakville Municipal Development Corporation as the owner rather than an agent of the town, again, to ensure that the conflict issue did not arise. Okay. The final piece in what of the activities that have been undertaken is that the statutory meeting is now scheduled for June 16th, which is obviously a very important milestone for this project. Moving to slide 7, as you are aware, you will be receiving a recommendation report following the statutory meeting, and following approval by council of that report, hopefully soon afterwards. The marketing of this property will occur in the fall of 2025 with the selection of a development partner and entering into a joint venture agreement by the end of this year or the first quarter of 2026. Finally, you would say. Finally, I would say. It is important to note that the new business plan for the corporation does forecast the first revenue installment generated by the site will be received in 2026. Moving to the next project on slide 8. As you recall, Town Council did in December opine upon a development scenario for the former Fire Hall number 3 site, which would see the construction of a residential building with the first 2 floors reserved and owned by the town as cultural and community space of approximately 20,000 square feet. Consideration will be given by the council to a building not exceeding 17 stories in height. So in addition to yielding these 2 floors of ground floor cultural community space, there will be 15 floors, potentially, of residential space. With that direction from council, the board was able to move forward and take action that I'd like to talk to you about. A geotechnical study was completed in 2024 to confirm that the site would support a new residential development. And if we could move to slide 9. We had always assumed that the site would support a new development, but we weren't sure. We now have a study that confirms that a development of this nature can actually be created on the site. And to that end, we then issued on March 10th an RFP for the preferred scenario described by council, which closed on May 7th. As you can see on slide 10, these proposals are currently being evaluated by an evaluation team comprised of Oakville MDC and town staff. And assuming that an acceptable proposal is received, we expect that a joint venture partnership agreement will be finalized by the end of 2025. As with the Public Works site, I will again tell you that the new business plan does forecast the first revenue installment generated by the fire hall to be received later this year or in the first quarter of 2026. Thank goodness. Slide 11. This speaks to the former Oakville Trafalgar Hospital and high school site lands. And I will tell you that there is still developer interest in the site. However, the high cost to repurpose the high school building is a considerable challenge. The costs continue to increase year over year, and understandably, this makes developers wary of profitability for the site. As I show you on the next slide, we did undertake a study to confirm that there is a demand for seniors housing in this area, but profitability does remain a concern. So what I will tell you is that we will continue to work with our broker to specifically target developers who specialize in seniors accommodation and on repurposing heritage buildings. But I can't not be clear that it is the cost of rehabilitating the high school that continues to be the major deterrent to developer take-up of the site. Parking lot 8, which is our newest project discussed on slide 13, has been identified by the town, as you know, as a pilot project for investigating opportunities to increase parking capacity in the downtown area by increasing the number of parking spots that are currently available on parking lot 8, primarily through an underground parking structure of some kind. We will be looking here for a joint venture arrangement as well to maximize the return to this council as the shareholder. As I've shown you on slide 14, over the next few months, market soundings with developers will be undertaken to determine developer interest and get their views on the viability of this pilot project. And if this response is favorable, an expression of interest will be issued this summer to obtain a formal indication of their interest. And if that is favorable, a request for proposals will follow later in the year. I'm optimistic that there is going to be significant interest in this site, given some of the discussions I've had with developers already. On the next slide, I'd like to talk about the board having overseen the preparation and approval of a new business plan for the Oakville MDC for the 2025-2028 planning horizon, which will be forwarded to the shareholder in due course for consideration. It's important to note in the new business plan that although the costs associated with the individual work plans, and in particular the project costs for our high priority sites, have increased year over year, as you would expect, the total profit and residual land value forecasted, particularly for the former Public Works site and the Fire Hall site, remains strong, although not as strong as they were at the height of the market in 2021 and 2022, but there will certainly be a significant return to the shareholder from these properties. We are confident that these sites will continue to be very desirable and will continue to attract strong developer interest in recognition of their strategic locations and the particular attributes of each of these sites. The last slide talks about the business portion of this meeting and the resolutions contained in the Commissioner's report, which we would ask that you confirm. And with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, President Maneri. Questions, Council? Motions? Councillor Haslett-Deal.
Thank you for the presentation, and I'm not sure if my question is best suited till now or if we go in camera, but I think I can ask it in the public realm. The work on parking lot 8 raises the question for me about a master plan for Randall and Church Street. And while they're not in your portfolio to deal with, what are your thoughts about having a master plan that really lays out what are the optimal opportunities that enhance downtown? Not just like a pilot of one, but rather what is the cohesive, holistic view? Because when you look at the number of parking lots and opportunities, it in my mind, I'm asking myself, are we thinking on a broad level, or are we thinking about each of these individually?
Well, this is your pilot, so I mean, it would seem to me that your thinking behind this was that it would inform whatever your strategy is going to be for the area. I'm not the planner, so I don't want to speak to that, but I would think that this would be an important piece of information, depending on what the response is from the developers, in terms of whether or not to go forward with a more comprehensive plan for the area.
And is there an intention on parking lot 8 to look at any commercial space beyond the parking?
We're going to look at residential and commercial opportunities. We're going to look at surface parking and subsurface parking, and whether there's a combination that could be. Everything is on the table for the Project 8 lot, because it is a pilot, and we want to explore as many of the options as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor, if I could supplement that answer, it will be for council to seek a master plan from our planning staff when council has the benefit of the information we're going to get from the pilot.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, Mayor Burton, because we certainly were going to need a master plan. I think it's incumbent upon us to think about it holistically.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm looking for the indicated, the mover and seconder for the indicated motion. Councillor Elgar, thank you. Councillor Knoll, thank you. Any objection? There being none, that's carried, and thank you very much, President Maneri. Council, Mr. Maneri is still with us, but the next motion is that the town lend up to $2,975,000 to the OMDC from the Tax Stabilization Reserve for 2025-28 administrative and project costs by way of a promissory note, and that the promissory note in form and substance satisfactory the treasurer and town solicitor be prepared. Can I get a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Knoll, Councillor Shia. Any objection? Madam Clerk, there's none. That's carried. Council, Chris Mark is here if you have questions, but the recommendation in 11.6 is that the permanent addition of the winter recreation strategy at an estimated cost of $528,800 be referred to the 2026 Budget Committee, and that the cost of the winter recreation strategy for December 2025, estimated at $158,900, be funded from the Tax Stabilization Reserve. Is there a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Dudek?
Thank you, Your Worship. I wholeheartedly support this. I think they're being very modest in their description of just how popular these programs have become. We continue to get extremely positive feedback from the community, so well done.
Thank you. I'm looking for a seconder as well. Councillor Chisholm, thank you. Councillor Haslett-Deal.
Thank you. My question is just for finance team. I concur with Councillor Dudek. The winter recreation program is a phenomenal success, and it's even encouraged some of our pickleballers to do their own shoveling to support the energy. But I'd just like to understand, as a percentage of our tax, because we'll be taking over in 2026, we would therefore be taking it, no longer taking out a tax stabilization. What would have been the tax percentage if winter recreation had not been in the tax stabilization?
Through you, Mayor Burton. So if you were to look at last year's tax levy, had that full amount been funded last year, it would have added about 8 points to our tax levy. So we were sitting at 4.91% as an increase. So you would be at 4.99. It might have rounded up to 5, depending on how the rounding fell out.
Thank you for that additional information.
Thank you, Councillor. I will call the vote. Any objection to the motion? There being none, that's carried. Thank you, everybody. 11.7 is, we have Paul Cripps with a presentation on that, and I believe that we would like to have that. Is there, am I right? Bill 17, it was on your desk and distributed Friday.
Bill 17 and 5.
And 5, yes.
On Saturday.
Sorry, Saturday. Well, it might have gone Friday and seen Saturday. It looks like we may have, I may have misspoken. Anyway, we're going to go to our planning director, Gabe Charles, and see where we wind up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we'll call up the presentation. Thank you. So to get started, I do apologize to Council for the lateness of getting you that report. There was a lot of information that we were trying to get through, and apologies that we missed the addendum, but it is available online now as part of the revised agenda. So this presentation is an overview of the two pieces of legislation which were recently introduced. It's high level at this point, and I will start with Bill 17, which was just released a couple of weeks ago, and it touches a number of 8 statutes, in fact, listed there on the screen. I'm not going to go into detail on each of them, but can give you an overview. The details on each of these is within the staff report. Starting with the Planning Act, the introduction of a regulation that would permit as-of-right variances up to 10%. So for example, if there is a side yard setback that has a requirement of 1 meter, and an applicant is looking to go down to 90 centimeters, that would be permitted as of right. That's what that would permit. There's also a limitation on the studies and the materials that municipalities can require for a complete application. That extends to urban design as well. So for example, things like sun, solar, shadowing studies, wind studies, any design briefs that we would require that would speak to conformity with council's urban design policies, those would no longer be permitted. It also identifies which professionals and which reports would be accepted as final submissions for a complete application. That is one that we're still trying to get to the bottom of. We're not quite sure if it means that we as municipalities are not allowed to review certified studies for accuracy before deeming an application complete, or if just simply a certified study comes in, those have to automatically be accepted. So there are still questions that are around how we are looking at some of the new changes with the Planning Act. Into the DC Act, a number of other changes are being proposed in terms of merging DC service categories for credit purposes, defining local service, deferring DC payments for residential developments, which could lead to some cash flow issues and increase the use of debt financing, for example, allowing for easier bylaw changes, which may be a good thing if there's additional flexibility that council may have. Prescribing limits on recoverable capital costs ensures developments can receive the frozen or the lower DC rate. There's exemptions for long-term care homes from DCs, which as a result of that may require increased funding from the town. And a number of other changes in terms of how to calculate benefits of new infrastructure, as well as annual reporting. Changes to the Building Code Act relate to the Building Materials Evaluation Committee no longer initiating research on construction materials or designs which have already been reviewed or are under review by the Canadian Construction Materials Centre. And similarly, ministers' rulings would no longer be required to approve materials which have already been approved by the CCMC. That will lead to the streamlining or the potential to streamline the use of innovative materials in the province. And clarity around Section 37, which is that municipalities would be prohibited from enacting bylaws that would conflict with the Building Code Act or the Building Code itself in relation to demolition or construction. One of the pieces that was approved was OREG 232-18, which was related to inclusionary zoning. That particular regulation was released a few years ago for consultation, and that decision was made at the same time as the bill had been released. And what it does is it caps 5% of the number of units or the floor area that can be set aside for inclusionary zoning units. And in addition to that, it puts a 25-year cap on those units. So, for example, those units, which would be identified for inclusionary zoning, are in effect now temporary. So it's not a permanent use that can be had for those particular units. Moving over to Bill 5, that was introduced on the 17th of April, and public comments were due back to the province through the ERO posting on the 17th of May. Staff were able to provide a submission to the province by the end of, or by that deadline in time, and those comments are in line with the comments that you will see within the staff report. Similarly, this bill touches a number of different statutes, go at them at a high level, again, for council's benefit. It's similar to Bill 17, the intent is to accelerate infrastructure and housing delivery. There are a number of schedules that are associated with the legislation that have some concern, particularly as it relates to environmental protection, land use planning, and species at risk. Insofar as requiring or permitting faster provincial permitting, especially for mining and infrastructure projects, reducing environmental assessment obligations and protections for ecologically sensitive areas, limited consultation obligations with First Nations communities, limiting foreign participation in Ontario's energy sector, replacing the Endangered Species Act with the Species Conservation Act, and introducing the special economic zones, which have the potential to override municipal plans, policies, and bylaws. With the Endangered Species Act, this is intended to be amended in the interim and then replaced with the Species Conservation Act. Requirements for species at risk have now become discretionary, subject to the Lieutenant Governor. There is increased flexibility in permit issuance, revised definition in habitat, elimination of certain enforcement powers and administrative obligations. And as I said, that the agency will be dissolved and those assets will be transferred to the Crown. There are some concerns with this one, as it would limit the town's ability to enforce protection. There's compromising to the integrity of the town's biodiversity and assessments, and how the town may be forced to accommodate certain development without sufficient offsetting matters. As noted, the Species Conservation Act will be replacing the previous act I mentioned. Casero will continue to be in place and provide species classification. The new act does restrict harmful activities unless they are specifically permitted. It introduces new conservation registry, clarifies and strengthens powers to enforce, suspend, or revoke permits. Again, critical habitats, as identified through this, may be lost or degraded before any enforcement action is taken as a result of the changes that are being proposed through the Conservation Act. The Ontario Heritage Act, there are new expanded powers for site inspections and enforcement. As well, the minister may exempt properties from an archaeological assessment. There are some questions related to that because the policies or the proposed amendments that the province is making, those priorities have a vagueness to them, that there's not a lot of clarity around how this would be used or how it would work. In addition, there is the suggestion that this has the capacity to compromise our Indigenous history and culture. In fact, losing Oakville's physical history by virtue of the fact that that can now go unrecorded or unknown. Lastly, just to touch on the Special Economic Zones Act. This really is intended for the James Bay lowlands in Northern Ontario, known as the Ring of Fire, but it's not clear how the implications of this could affect other municipalities in the province, because projects within an SEZ may be exempt from regulatory requirements. It provides legal protection and extinguishment of related causes of action. It can empowers the provincial government to designate specific geographic areas as an SEZ through regulation, and permits exemptions or modifications to municipal bylaws. So there are some concerns, as noted, around this. Some of those also include the risks with weakening zoning and environmental protections and transit supportive development. There's still a number of questions that remain with how these would actually function and how those would work for local municipalities. So in an effort to be brief, that is an overview of the bills that we have been looking at. The recommendations are available there on the screen, and there are a number of staff that are available to answer questions if there are any.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. I just wonder if you could highlight one point that I think was very important in your report, and you didn't make your slide, and that was the point you made that in the SEZs, which we understand to be targeted to the Ring of Fire, there are no municipal bylaws, I think you said, to be set aside. And I thought that was a very valuable suggestion that you, in your proposed comments to the province. I just want to amplify that for the public and the council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that is correct. There is, it is not covered by municipal bylaws. The changes are explicitly included in the new provisions that are associated with the Act.
So that's why we worry that there might be unexpected consequences here.
Correct.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Elgar.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. I'd just like to thank Director Charles and his team. They put a lot of work into this, and it's a 45-page report, and I'd like to say hats off to you people for coming up with this in such short order. It really, really tells people where we should be going. And at the appropriate time, under new business, I've got a motion that council can all support, I hope, which kind of just reinforces what Director Charles has highlighted. I thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Elgar. If we're done with questions, I'd look for a mover and seconder for the resolution. Councillor Elgar and Councillor Longo, thank you. Any objection? There isn't, and that's carried. We have, I think it's 3 confidential items, and I would be delighted if a mover and seconder wanted to move all 3 of them. Councillor Duddock and a seconder who hasn't been on, Councillor Adams hasn't been on the, Councillor Hazatiel?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I have a question for, in regards to the license plates and pay-by-plate for Director Selina. I just wanted to ask if there is anything in terms of the licensing, the pay-by-plate and the software that municipal enforcement can do related to license plates that have obstructions. And therefore are not necessarily having the fines that they would be subject to with ASC, et cetera.
Councillor, could I ask you to hold that? I don't think you're talking about the 3 items that we're considering.
I'm sorry, I thought it was 13.1 we were at.
No, we're at the 3 confidential items, 12.1, 12.2, and 12.3.
My apologies.
Okay. Then, with your permission, I'll call the vote. Any objection? There being none, the confidential items are adopted. That brings us to the staff memorandum in 13. And Councillor Hazard-Thiel, 13.1, ask away.
Selena, they just wanted you to get some steps.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. I always appreciate getting a few more steps. So as far as the illegible plates, it is something that we are considering. As you're aware, with our LPR, that license plate recognition technology that we use for enforcement, whenever we have illegible plates, it's very difficult for the equipment to recognize those. As a result, we're really looking at our procedures to find out and take opportunities to deal with permits in our terms and conditions so that we can essentially have the term and condition to say, if the plate is illegible, the permit is no longer valid. So that is what we're looking at implementing.
Thank you. Anything we can do to ensure that it's a fair system for all is appreciated.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor, for that. Let's turn to the new business. Councillor Elgar and Councillor Dudek have a notice of motion and a request to waive the rules. And as I understand it, are you ready to distribute this?
It should be distributed. Sir. Mayor Burton, it should be distributed already. I believe Andrea sent this to everyone. Yeah.
Well, being a little occupied here at the control desk.
You might not have seen it.
I'm the one who hasn't seen it.
Okay, well, and I'm sure Angie will put it up on the screen if that's.
Let's hope. That would be a nice thing.
And if I can get to it too.
Can we zoom in, please?
It's a relatively short motion. Councillor Dudek and I don't like long motions. And I would be pleased to read it out if you so desire.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. The title, it's a motion opposing Bill 5, Protect Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy Act 2025. And that is the title of the motion from the province. Whereas Bill 5, the Protect Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy 2025 proposes the creation of special economic zones, or SEZs, that would grant the provincial government the authority to exempt designated projects and proponents from compliance with existing provincial and municipal bylaws, including environmental regulations and local bylaws. And whereas such provisions could undermine municipal autonomy, environmental protections, and community engagement in local development decisions, therefore be it resolved that the town of Oakville formally requests the Government of Ontario amend Bill 5 due to concerns regarding the potential erosion of municipal authority and environmental safeguards, as outlined in the Town of Oakville staff report of 26 May 2025. That Council urges the Government of Ontario to amend Bill 5 to ensure that any development within SEZs adheres to the existing provincial and municipal bylaws and includes comprehensive consultation with affected communities and stakeholders. And 3, a copy of the resolution be sent to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, the local member of Provincial Parliament, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. And that is the very concise motion. And I'll just say, today we learned that already the minister is stating he is going to make modifications to it. So it's very encouraging.
Thank you, Councillor. Any speakers? Then the first thing we need to do is pass a motion to waive the rules to allow the introduction of the notice of motion. And the first hand I saw was Councillor Chisholm, and the next one I saw was Councillor Longo, so we'll take those. Any objection? There being none, that's carried. And now we can vote the motion. Is there any objection to the motion? There being none, I declare that it's been carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Now, all right, I would look for a mover and seconder to go into a session closed to the public as permitted under the Municipal Act and the Procedure Code for the purpose of discussing information explicitly supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board by Canada, a province or territory, or a crown agency of anyone, of any of them, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. I'm looking for the mover. Councillor Adams, I'm looking for the seconder. Councillor Grant.
Your
thank you.
Worship, I'm happy to move it, but under new business, I'd like to make a congratulatory note, if I could. Thank you very much. I wanted to congratulate all of the volunteers who were part of the Northeast Oakville Fair yesterday. We had a very, very successful Northeast Oakville Fair yesterday. Councillor Lischina and I spent a lot of time working with the volunteer committee, and we had thousands of people attend the fair yesterday. It was I'm certain it's the busiest one we've had yet. And the presenting sponsor, Toronto Pearson, was on board with us this year, and our chair of the fair was Jen Barricos once again, and she led a fantastic team of volunteers. We had dozens of volunteers helping us, not only from the broader community, but especially from Iroquois Ridge High School, and those volunteers managed to make a lot of friendly smiles happen, and they managed to get some volunteer hours for high school as well. And I have to thank my colleague right next to us for bringing us popcorn again this year. So Film.ca was there with us, handing out thousands of bags of popcorn, at least 1,000 bags of popcorn. Anyway, lots of popcorn. And I want to extend our thanks to our staff. We had many staff who helped us from various parts of the organization, especially the special events team. But we also had members of our fire team there. We had Halton Regional Police there. We had members from the region there, as well as the library and the recreation center, who were very, very helpful to organizing it. And a special shout out to our park staff who mowed the grass a couple days before and made the place look top notch and very nice for everybody. So a great thank you to everybody, and we look forward to more events in the future. So thanks very much.
So are you going to call it Six Fest? You need a catchy name, I guess, at some point when it takes off like that.
The Northeast Oakville Fair is doing just great. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Shia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will do the similar with Councillor Adams, but different event, a different day. So Councillor Nanda and I will like to congratulations to the Halton Asian Heritage Society, especially to Jane and Joyce for organizing this fantastic festival on last Saturday. Despite the cold and the windy weather, thousands of families came out and to enjoy the food, culture, music, performance. A big thank to you, all the sponsors and volunteers who make this event happen. I also want to express our gratitude to our town staff, the culture team, the park team, enforcement team, and especially to Lisa and Sam for their on-site support on that day. We truly appreciate the contribution of our fire department, Halton Police, library, to their support, and we come to see you again next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Worship. Two matters I'd like to bring to council's and the public's attention. One is both a congratulatory note and an apology. And I'll explain the apology in a second. The congratulations is due to Deputy Chief Jeff Hill, Superintendent Susan Biggs, Deputy Chief Kevin Mahar, and Superintendent Jeffrey Sandy, who we all remember as our former superintendent here in Oakville. The mayor used to call him the Chief of Oakville. So the four of these folks were honored with a special recognition at Rideau Hall last week, and they were awarded the Order of Merit of Police Forces. Now, this is a very significant award to police officers for careers of exemplary service, which includes contributions to policing, community development, and fostering relationships across police forces in Canada. So we're very proud of these four officers at the Halton Police Board. And my apology is that I made this announcement at Regional Council the other day, and I forgot Sue Biggs and Jeff Sandy. So I am doubling down in my congratulations. I'm doubling down on my congratulations by bringing it to Oakville as well. So I hope you will all agree with me that these 4 individuals are outstanding police officers and deserve our hearty congratulations.
Thank you, and they do.
Yes. The second matter I'd like to bring to your attention, this is a repeat, and this is to remind everybody that now that the Northeast Falls Fair is over, the next big event is the Oakville Family Rib Fest, which comes up on June 19th, 2021 and 22. So please circle those dates in your calendar. I hope you'll all come out. This year we're expanding to include Thursday in our program. The Robertson Amusements is back with a big Ferris wheel, so you can take your date up high and enjoy a beautiful view of Ward 5 and Ward 6. And we hope that you'll come. All of the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds go to charity, and we're very pleased, again, this year for the co-sponsorship of both the Oakville Trafalgar Rotary as well as the Oakville Lions. And big thank you to RBC, who is our presenting sponsor this year. So please come out to the Oakville Family Rib Fest on June 19, 20, 21, and 22. And Mr. Mayor, I would hope you'd pass a resolution to ban rain that weekend. I'll support it. Thank you.
If only the weather would listen. If only. All right, I'll call the vote on the motion to authorize the session in closed session. Any objection? There being none, that carries, and we'll take a bio break while staff rig the chamber for a meeting closed to the public. All right, I'm calling the council meeting back to order, having been in a session closed to the public for the purpose of advice that is subject to client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and information explicitly supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board by Canada, a province or territory, or a crown agency of any of them, in accordance with both the Municipal Act and the Procedure Bylaw. Councillor Haslett-Deal and Councillor Giddings have a motion, and I imagine that they'd like to speak to it. So our custom is to give the mover and seconder the courtesy of starting. Councillor Haslett-Deal.
Mayor Burton, so a notice of motion was filed on May 1st, 2025, and under advisement from others, it has been amended, and I will also add a secondary amendment now, and so I'll read it out for council colleagues to know, and I will highlight where there is an amendment to follow. So the subject is an advocacy plan for Midtown Official Plan Amendment and Transit-Oriented Community. Whereas Midtown OPA represents a bold, responsible, and defensible plan that supports sustainable, complete community building and is currently awaiting approval by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And whereas on January 27th, 2025, Council unanimously passed a motion rejecting the proposed transit-oriented community, the TOC plan, noting that it does not align with the draft Midtown OPA and may emphasize higher densities at the expense of a balanced, timely, and sustainable development. And whereas on February 18th, Council unanimously supported the draft official plan amendment following careful analysis, expert input, and consultation with stakeholders. And whereas the town of Oakville continues to exceed provincial housing targets, having achieved 125% of its 2024 housing supply goal through proactive and holistic planning, including the Midtown OPA, which supports community benefits, sustainability, and livability. And whereas residents have called on council to ensure strong coordinated advocacy and governance to secure provincial alignment with council's approved planning direction. And whereas municipal staff provide expert advice, analysis, and intergovernmental liaison consistent with council's approved resolutions and directions, and are not engaged in political advocacy in accordance with their professional and nonpartisan responsibilities. And whereas the mayor, in accordance with the Municipal Act, serves as the head of council and chief executive officer of the municipality and acts as the primary representative of council in external government relations. And whereas the mayor holds executive and representational responsibilities, advocacy, and engagement with other levels of government, which are to be conducted in a manner consistent with the approved decisions of council. And whereas a collaborative advocacy approach that includes council members reinforces to ministers the unanimous support of Council for OPA 70, and the importance of aligning the TOC proposal with that approved Council OPA. Therefore, be it resolved that the Mayor is requested, in accordance with the Municipal Act, to provide regular updates to Council on advocacy efforts and engagement with the province regarding the Midtown OPA and TOC proposal, in the interest of transparency, accountability, and alignment with Council's approved direction, and share relevant updates with the public where confidentiality requirements do not preclude it and this is the amendment, or are appropriate to our efforts. Second, that the Mayor is requested to consider including Council members in meetings or discussion with provincial ministers and their staff to support the approval of the OPA and ensure alignment of any TO proposal with the town's planning framework and the expressed interests of Oakville residents. And staff be directed to provide regular written and verbal updates to Council on the status of OPA 70, including timelines, engagement with the province, and any developments related to the TOC proposals, and to share relevant updates with the public where confidentiality requirements defined by the province do not preclude it, and I will add the lines, and are appropriate. So that is the motion that we are tabling. I perhaps will let my council colleagues speak to it, and then I'd like to speak to it as well.
Councillor Giddings, as a seconder, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given the continued level of interest by Oakville residents as shown through ongoing feedback and from public meetings concerning traffic, infrastructure, flood studies, density, and more, there are so many moving pieces from CH, the region, the town, that we would like to see non-confidential information updates for the public would certainly be appreciated.
Councillor Duddick.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to the mover and seconder, trying to sort of wrap my head around the rationale for certainly for members of the public to be provided an update, but we often know that in situations such as this, it's precarious given the confidentiality, and when something's at the OLT or that our hands are tied in terms of sharing updates per se, and I know you're saying not confidential, but I believe we've been receiving updates from the mayor confidentially, but as yet the members of the public. Is that what you're trying to get at? That just even saying it continues?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Duddick. The public has invested such a significant amount of time in ensuring that the OPA was shaped in a way that it really is a community plan. Since February 18th, there has been minimal public correspondence that even highlights some steps that are being taken to continue the advocacy that we as a council committed to, and also the mayor. And so while we are, and we recently did get a confidential update, which I think we're all very appreciative of, it is finding the right balance to ensure where we can update the public, that this is reinforcing our intent is to do that where it's appropriate to the effort to achieve the results that they are desiring.
Okay, so I guess my concern is if, well, I can appreciate the intent, if you're compromising the argument due to confidentiality issues, there's only so much that can be shared in the public realm other than just saying, FYI, we continue to advocate, or the mayor continues to advocate on our behalf, full stop.
And that may very well be what the mayor chooses to do, because he has the authority as the representative to say, you know, my update to council and to the public is that we continue to endeavor and that we're engaging at multiple levels. And that will help the public understand that our eye is still on, you know, ensuring and delivering on the commitment that we made.
Councillor Giddings, Councillor Chisholm.
Yes, just a clarity with respect to the confidentiality and what the public should be aware of. The gatekeeping on this, who I am to assume, Your Worship, that is in the direction of the mayor to filter that out as what is important to confidentiality versus public information?
I will always protect the interests of the town by remembering that the word "the public" includes our adversaries. And,
Right, okay.
you know, the price of updating the public is to update your adversary. I don't think that's how you do this. And all of the achievements that Councillor Hazlitt-Deal cited on my part over the years were done this way, where I always protect information from people who shouldn't have it because they'd use it against us. So yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship, for the clarity.
Other speakers? Anybody else? Councillor Adams.
I just have a question of clarification. The second part here says that the mayor is requested to consider including council members in various meetings. Is this to suggest that all members of council should attend all these meetings? Are we having meetings with 15 members of council going to a meeting with the minister?
So I'm pleased to answer that. No, it's asking that as has been done at the region and others, that consideration be given that we be able to attend a meeting. At AMO, if you look across at other jurisdictions, individuals council members are welcome to attend. But again, it is asking for consideration. It is not requiring it. It's not within our authority to do that. We're simply asking for it to be considered.
Okay, I have some difficulty with that process in this particular situation when we're dealing with this type of situation. I understand the mayor has, in the past, had many meetings with various people over many different issues, and I don't think it's functional to effectively force them to do this. I think it's a wrong thing to do. It's a wrong process. It's not how business is done.
Well, just for clarification, it is not forcing. It's actually asking him to consider, and he could consider who and how he wishes to take the suggestion.
Councillor Elgar.
Through you, Mayor Burton. I was just going to say the same thing. I see the word "the mayor is requested." It doesn't say the mayor is directed, nor can we. But I don't see it as a direct threat. Maybe I'm missing something, but I thought request. Yeah, you can request a lot of things, and I thought that's what the word meant. I don't read it that way. So, anyhow, that's just my 2 cents.
Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Worship. I'm not going to be supporting the motion tonight. That's primarily because, in my mind, I think that this motion is unnecessarily provocative in the sense that it's implying that somehow the mayor is not communicating with the public or with council effectively. And I do support his stewardship on this particular issue. I just want to read you a clause of the Ontario Municipal Act. It states as Chief Executive Officer of municipality, the head of council shall, and I'm just skipping through 2 of them, act as a representative of the municipality both within and outside the municipality and promote the municipality locally, nationally, and internationally. This is his job. And this motion is effectively telling him how to do his job. And I think it's unnecessarily, again, impugning the fact that maybe somebody thinks he's not doing his job. And I think that by and large, where we've gotten to this point has a lot to do with the mayor's work on this. There's been a lot of strategic work behind the scenes. And I'm telling you this as a former Queen's Park staffer. There's a lot that happens, behind the scenes with heads of council, and I think that we should allow the mayor to have the ability to be able to make the decisions that he believes are within the strategic best interests of the municipality, which is afforded him under the Ontario Municipal Act. So I will not be supporting it today.
Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you. Thank you, Worship. I will not be supporting the motion also. My concern is this, is that the process that you've been doing, that I've been on council, has been always the process, and I totally agree with what you're saying with respect to protection of privacy and keep it within the realms of council, but at the same time moving things to the public at the appropriate time. So I haven't seen any miscues on that since I've been on council with respect to it. However, notwithstanding, I appreciate what council wants to do in participating in maybe possible meetings with the province. And I think I was just speaking with Councillor Duddick when we were at the last conference. We had the opportunity to meet with the ministers, and you brought us into that meeting with respect to Kerr Street underpass. So I'm not in support of this motion at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. Councillor Duddick.
Thank you, Worship. I had been originally going to support the motion. However, having had the opportunity to hear in camera some of the concerns raised and some of the explanations and commitments that have been made, I am fully satisfied that, similar as Councillor Chisholm has said, when we've had OLT hearings in our ward, we're never part of the discussions, okay? We're never part of them. We don't even sit in. You have quite honestly been very good about sometimes sharing something to us, a development maybe, but just as the ward councillors, okay? And I appreciated that fully because it gave us a little insight as to the rationale and the work that you had been doing behind the scenes. So I will leave it at that. I fully appreciate Councillor Giddings and Councillor Haslett-Deal trying to get members of the public who have expressed to them their frustration, but I also appreciate the frustration is sometimes just with the formality or the process by which we have to deal with things like this.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Longo?
Thank you, Your Worship. I also don't support the motion. Looking at the priority intergovernmental requests, items 5 through 9, they're all related to Midtown. I think this is a very important aspect of the work that the mayor and council does, and I feel that we'll be involved at the appropriate time, as well as the public being involved at the appropriate time. So I won't support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I do want to thank the movers and the seconders on this one. I think it speaks to a frustration with the process. And I think it speaks to a frustration with the way these things come about. I think it speaks about how development occurs in this province. I think it speaks to about the relationships between government officials and developers, and how when things go to court, it really takes the public out of it in the picture. And I think that is a real frustration. I think that is a real problem with how our communities are built. And I understand that. But those are the cards that we're dealing with today. And I do believe that I think it's important, and we've heard the mayor has said his commitment to ensuring whatever he can, he will, and he has let us know. So, I won't be supporting the motion, but I do wholeheartedly understand the frustration about transparency and accountability and this entire process on how developments get approved in Ontario. So I feel for you, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara. All right, Councillor Haslett-Deal.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. Thank you, Sean. I particularly appreciated those comments because at times in this process, it has been incredibly frustrating. I believe that why we have tabled this really speaks to the request and the call from the public. They've reached out about concerns about the status of OPA 70, having not even been told that the ERO, that the OPA 70 is posted on the ERO, and feeling like, so things as simple as that being shared with them gives them greater confidence that we are delivering on our commitment that we all made unanimously in January and in February. And Mayor Burton, I absolutely appreciate what we heard in camera, that you intend to continue to do, to provide updates as you did following the tabling of the motion in camera about 10 days ago. And with that, I acknowledge that you are continuing to commit to seeing this through to the direction that was provided both in January and February. I will leave the motion on the table, and for those that are still willing to support it, because I do believe that as our primary representative, it is important where you can, not jeopardizing our best interest, that you update council, that you consider that council members participating in some discussions might help reflect a unified and unanimous support that we have had as a council on OPA 70 and TOC. And I continue to respect that the staff do provide us where they can updates, but again, reinforcing that it's the public that has raised the call to say they would like to make sure and understand where they can, that our advocacy is continuing and that the future of Oakville is in good hands. And so I'll leave the motion on the floor.
Councillor Elgar.
Thank you. Through Mayor Burton, I'm afraid we're trying to make too much out of this. I just take a look at section 226.1, the role of the Chief Executive Officer. As CEO, the mayor is responsible for, 1, promoting public involvement in the municipality's activities, 2, acting as a representative of the municipality in intergovernmental relations, and 3, provide information and making recommendations to council with respect to the role of council. And the interpretation is this section implies that the mayor is expected to inform and engage council, particularly when it comes to matters that fall within decision-making powers of council, like land use planning and OPA 70. Council's role, representing the public and considering the well-being and interests of the municipality, developing and evaluating policies and programs, determining which services the municipality provides services, ensuring accountability and transparency of municipal operations. Honestly, I figured when I read that and I read what is being proposed tonight, to me, it's just trying to be as accountable, with accountability, transparency of municipal operations. I will be supporting the motion, but I can see where this might go.
Very well. May I put the vote? I'd like a recorded vote. Madam Clerk, would you conduct the recorded vote?
Mayor Burton.
No.
Councillor O'Meara.
No.
Councillor McNeese.
No.
Councillor Dedek.
No.
Councillor Chisholm. No. Councillor Haslett-Thiel.
Yes.
Councillor Giddings.
Yes.
Councillor Elgar.
Yes.
Councillor Longo.
No.
Councillor Knoll.
No.
Councillor Grant.
No.
Councillor Adams.
No.
Councillor Lischina.
No.
Councillor Nanda.
No.
Councillor Shia.
No.
And that fails.
Thank you, everybody, for your time on this matter. I just want to make sure the public understands that the problem for me with this was asking me to do stuff and asking staff to do stuff that we do already and take very seriously as our duty. Every member of this council knows that you have been invited to meet with the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing at AMO by me. I distributed that. If you didn't read it, anyway. In addition to that, I've also asked for a meeting with the Minister of Infrastructure. And if it didn't go to you, I apologize. But so you know, and it was mentioned by Councillor Chisholm that in previous AMOs, I've also done that. There's just no evidence that I don't do it. And as for including council members, not all of council, that is outside the lane of council. That is not a councillor's job. So, and so those are the facts. That's the result. And I thank everybody for their time and attention to it. Are there any requests for report? I'm not seeing any. Is there a mover and seconder for consideration and reading of the bylaws? Councillor Chisholm, Councillor Longo, thank you. Any objection? That carries.
Mayor Burton.
Now I need to, this is a little complicated. We had a late bylaw. So under section 2.2 of the procedure bylaw, we need council to waive the section 20.11 requiring that bylaws be listed on the agenda for the consideration of bylaw 2025-109, a bylaw to appoint the clerk for the corporation of the town of Oakville. So for that bylaw, I need a mover and seconder for that waiver. And I'll take Councillor Nolan, Councillor Lischina. Thank you. Any objection? That carries. And now I hope I can get a mover and seconder that the following bylaws be passed: bylaw 2025-097, bylaw 2025-098, bylaw 2025-112, and 109. Councillor Shia and Councillor Longo, any objection? There being none, the bylaws are considered read and passed. And that ends our work together this evening. There is lots of work ahead of us. I enjoy working with all of you, even in disagreement, because we almost always wind up with a good decision. And that ends the meeting. Thank you and good night.